she had she has served in the India's high-level panel on long-term food security, and she has published a number of books to her credits. And the recent report is on multi-stakeholder partnership to finance and improve food security on nutrition in the framework of 2030 agenda. She is also currently serving as a board member in IRI, and she's a former chairperson of MSSRF for a past almost a decade. I welcome you, ma'am. And I also welcome the co-chair, Sri Prem Chandra Chowdhury, IAS from Orissa, who's the Director, Agriculture and Food Production, Government of Orissa. He joined the Indian Administrative Service in 2010, and he has served in various capacities in the government. And his interest is, he has contributed significantly in agriculture sector, driving initiatives that support sustainable development and food production in Orissa. I welcome you, sir. And we have 4 speakers in this session. Ma'am, I invite them? Or? Yeah, please invite them. Yeah. I invite the first speaker, Dr. Shenkan Fan, Director General and Professor Agriculture University, China. And Dr. Stanford Blade, Deputy Director General, ICRISAT, Hyderabad. And next, Dr. Bui, who's already on the stage, and Dr. Jawahar Ali, Principal Scientist and Hybrid Rice Breeding Lead at IRI, Philippines. So now I hand over the dais to the chairperson, the chairperson of the session, Dr. Prof Swaminathan. Please.
Welcome all, and to this first technical session where we have very competent people. So I will be very brief, just maybe some comments at the end of the session. So each speaker will have about 10 minutes, and I'm quite strict about these things usually. So at 8 minutes, I'll give a sound, make a little noise. So our first speaker is Dr. Shenkan Fan, currently Chair Professor and Dean of the Academy of Global Food Economics and Policy at China Agricultural University. Most of you know him. He had a long career at IFPRI, ending as Director General for 10 years. So I'm not going to say too much more because he's a well-known expert here. So over to you, Shenkan. Thank you.
Thank you, Madhura. So I have known Dr. S.M. Swaminathan for probably 25 years at IFPRI, and then obviously even I went back to China. I had some interaction with him. So a couple of contributions to me and to IFPRI. One is in 2012, IFPRI held a very big conference in New Delhi called Reshaping Agriculture for Improving Nutrition. That was one of the first global events try to, let's say, make the link between agriculture and nutrition very strong. And Dr. Swaminathan is the chair of the advisory committee of that conference. Then when Dr. Swaminathan came back to India from IRI, we also worked with the foundation on a couple of projects. And not surprisingly, again, on nutrition, improving nutrition, angel, whatever, all these acronyms, to really try to look at the interface between agriculture and the nutrition. Could I have a PowerPoint?
The PowerPoint, how to move the PowerPoint?
Yeah. Oh, you will move it for me, or yeah. I will move it?
Yeah, they will move it.
Okay. All right. So my talk is the food system transformation in China. This is very much actually inspired by Dr. Swaminathan. The reason is we used to work just on agriculture production. Then evergreen revolution, the concept was introduced to climate change, the loss of biodiversity, the degradable natural resources and so on. So all this come together. Then hunger, hunger. I remember Dr. Swaminathan said that, if there is one hungry person in the world, our business is not finished. So you can see using the food system approach to tackle all the challenges together. Okay, next one, please. And next one. So here I wanted to introduce the food system transformation in China. So India and China are the two largest countries, as well as food systems in the world. And I think China and India are facing similar challenges in food systems. So for example, malnutrition. I think China eliminated hunger in 2020. So I have observed that. I went to China in that year. But the hidden hunger is still a serious problem, lack of micronutrients. So our own estimation is probably 300 and maybe even 500 million people in China are suffering from lack of iron, zinc, vitamin A, all these key essential minerals and micronutrients. And in rural areas and in western part of China, the prevalence of micronutrients deficiency particularly high. Then surprisingly, overweight obesity. By 2020, China's overweight obesity has already reached 50%. This is shocking. So then obviously, the climate change is hitting China very hard. And I know here that some landslides killed many people in China. Probably even bigger number have been killed by landslides because of the heavy floods, the heavy rains for the last 2 weeks. So, and then obviously degradation of natural resources. Soil, water have been polluted by unsustainable food production and agriculture. And the resilience, the prices now moved up and down, and the poor people are particularly vulnerable to higher food prices. So there's an urgent need to transform the food system towards that better efficiency, obvious nutrition, inclusion, resilience, and sustainable. So all this must be a part of the objective of the food system transformation. So for the last 5 or 10 years, China introduced a lot of strategies. So for example, rural revitalization, the building agriculture, this is probably should be strengthen China as one of the sort of powerful agricultural countries. That because China now depends heavily on imports to feed itself. Just last year, China imported 130 million tons of grains, beans, feed to feed itself. So the self-sufficient rate has come down to less than 70%. So that's why building a strong agriculture country in China is very critical. The National Food and the Nutrition Guideline toward 2035, that nutrition guideline really requires Chinese to eat healthily. For example, less red meat, more grains, more whole grains, beans, and nuts, and so on. The anti-food waste laws. So China actually is the first country that introduced a law, national law, to reduce food waste loss. And every stakeholder in China are accountable for reducing food waste loss. And a healthy China by 2030. So that's, again, a very big national plan. You will see all these big national strategy plans are very much linked to food systems. So without food system transformation, all these big national strategies, objectives, visions will not be able to be achieved. No.
You have to press something.
I did. Oh, it's not working?
Oh, no, let's move now to pathways.
Okay, so I have to look at that instead of this. Yeah. No, actually, there's one before.
Okay,
yes.
That's it.
So the embracing food system approach. So lots of more related agricultural, health, nutrition have developed sort of approaches to embrace food system. I mean, this is a big change. 5 years ago, it's more sort of a siloed approach by agriculture, by nutrition and health, by environment. But today, gradually, we begin to use food system approach, how to do it. So for example, set up a leadership group to coordinate all these policies, strategies across different ministries: education, nutrition and health, environment, ecology, agriculture, and so on. Then increasing productivity through more innovative technologies. So this is the key element of increasing food system efficiency by using less natural resources to produce more healthy, nutritious foods. Then restore natural resources. So not just to protect, we must restore. So the soil have been degraded, the water have been polluted. So simply stop it is not enough. So we must restore. So restoring is part of the strategy. Then institutions, clearly. Today, well, obviously China made tremendous progress in terms of allocating lands to smallholders, users' rights. However, the land equity between women and men is still a challenge. For example, if a woman marries out of the village, then she loses land users' rights. If a woman marries into a village, then there will be no additional land allocated to her. So I think the continued institutional reforms were not only essential for productivity improvement, but also for addressing some of the equity issues, particularly between men and women. And from farm to table, lots of sort of innovation there. For example, the AI, IT, the Alibaba, all these sort of modern e-commerce, modern digital companies that play a huge role. Again, here, how are we going to address this is called a digital divide between those who are educated, those who are not, those who have the capability, who do not have a capability. And social protection system. I think many years ago, Asha Gulati and I launched a study to compare the China and India's experience. And we found that actually Indian social protection system, there are some issues, but I think that China needs to learn from the social protection system from India. And then obviously strengthening international collaboration between China and the world, particularly between China and India. I think there's great potential just to look at the agricultural trade, agricultural science, technology collaboration between these two countries. So we're thinking of a second phase of the dragon and elephant studies. Now, pathway to transform food system, I don't need to discuss too much about. Again, it's not moving, huh? Let me see.
Yes.
Here we go. So I have to click twice.
2 minutes.
Okay. So policy support. I mean, it's very obvious that both countries use quite a bit of financial resource to subsidize agriculture production. It is time to look at that, maybe repurpose that support to use the financial resource to promote more sustainable, healthy food systems. So that's a very good. And trade, as I already said, the trade between China and the rest of the world, particularly India, can be very beneficial to China and to other parts of the world. But we need to look at some of the barriers, infrastructure barriers, trade policies, trade distortions, and a science policy society interface. I mean, in New Delhi, just a couple of days ago, we discussed about the interface between science, policy, and society. So how can we really bring science, well, here not so scientists, to policy making and to the society? It's still a challenge. So this is my final slide. How do we strengthen the international collaboration? So last November, we held a conference called the World Agri-Innovation Conference, WAFE, in Beijing. We had almost 3,000 people coming. By the way, 60 million online watched the debate, youth forum, science forum, and even policymaker forum and so on. And this year we're going to host that conference again from October 10 to 12 in Beijing. So try to bring the scientists, policymakers, even the private sector, multinational companies together to really debate how we can really work together to share the knowledge, share the data, and share what we have learned, just like this forum here. Okay, thank you very much.
I'm very happy to invite our next speaker. But thank you, Schengen, for always sort of bringing a lot of information in a few minutes. And welcome to India, since you've just come back and has taken over as the DDG of Research at ICRISAT. and having come from a very leading position, Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture, Life and Environmental Sciences at the University of Alberta, where Mrs. Arif has had a long-standing collaboration. So I won't say much more, but Dr. Blade will speak next. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Swaminathan. I certainly appreciate the invitation to come. It's impossible not to make this as a personal observation with respect to, if I could just have the slide up. As with all of us, I'm trained as a plant breeder. I've worked within the CG system for many years. The particular image that you see in front of us was when the university that I also am a part of at the University of Alberta in Canada provided an honorary degree to Dr. Swaminathan in 2010. And this morning, when I went into the awards hall, I see that honorary parchment standing up as well within this award system. So every part of my career, I feel that Dr. Swaminathan has touched. And now that I serve as the Deputy Director General of Research at ICRISAT, you will also know that Dr. Swaminathan was a co-founder, served as a vice chair on the governing board of ICRISAT for a period of time from 1972 to 1980. So all of this is very much connected. I think that you know ICRISAT, but I want to refresh your memory on the important work that we do. And I hope that within the theme of this session, show that we, I hope, are actually realizing or actualizing many of the visions of Dr. Swaminathan as we think about a prosperous, food secure, and resilient system. You will also know that ICRISAT works across the world. We are based in Hyderabad. We work across India, the rest of South Asia, but also are very active in Africa because of the important work and, of course, the wide regional importance of dry land agriculture. Across the world, over 2 billion people live within dry land areas of the world. The kind of specialties that we work on, again, are the kinds of things that you would be very aware of. That deep knowledge of systems, of working very closely with communities, of engaging with very important crops that are well adapted to the dry land areas of the world, and really bringing that same value chain sector approach to the kind of work that we do. I very much appreciate Dr. Fang's talk, because very much of the work that he identified is the kind of work that we also anticipate. This approach is in the very same way of breaking out of silos, of thinking in systems, of combining disciplines, of thinking about the impact of agricultural research in all kinds of other knock-on effects around health, around development of communities, around opportunities for adding wealth to communities, and also, of course, for ensuring the continuation of family prosperity and all of the things that Dr. Swaminathan spoke of. So this is the approach, but what does that actually look like? Just an example here from Bihar. A complicated slide, but it's a very simple concept. If we start from your left, we work with communities to identify issues, to identify problems, then to start testing some possibilities of solutions, then bringing science excellence, the development of innovative ideas that start to reach out into technologies around seed systems, around appropriate mechanization, around management of landscapes, leading then to the kinds of impacts that you see on your right that are starting to be realized. So this is the process that we work with, certainly within ICRISAT, across the 1CG, and certainly with all of our partners, both here in India, but across the world as well. So what are some of those technologies and activities? Certainly the kinds of things that we talk about are very much about, let me just go back one, the mandated crops that we work within. These are the dryland crops that are very important, both in cereals and grain legumes. We have a long legacy and history of both collecting the germplasm, of using the most cutting-edge tools around genomic interpretation and making sure that we understand the basis of the various valuable traits that are within these crops, and then ensuring that we can breed these crops, work with our partners so that these new cultivars will be able to reach all of those smallholder farmers and others, both here in India, but also in other parts of the world in which we work. And just as a reminder of some of those activities, what will eventually come up, well, you'll see some of the work that we do in everything from pigeon pea to very high iron millets. Just going to test the waters a little bit to see if I can get that slide to actually load. There we go. So high iron millets, the tremendous nutritive capacity of the grain legumes that we work with, even things like high oleic groundnuts, again, for healthful outcomes for consumers of those products. So in addition to crops, obviously, again, the topic of climate resilience has come up. We're thinking about what we do, but it's important to think about what the focal points will be as we move forward. Certainly thinking about all of those technologies that manage climate risk, that give smallholder farmers the tools that they can adapt to the kinds of issues that we've heard about, whether under drought conditions, flood conditions, all of the things that farmers are facing. In the same way, thinking about water management in dryland areas, of course, this is a highly valuable resource to ensure that we are getting the highest efficiency, whether it's in the crops that we're breeding or the way that landscapes are managed. And something like soil health that is in the last 5 or 10 years become a real focus and a real cutting edge area of science, of thinking about how we maintain healthy soils, how we make sure that those living organisms that make up that soil continue to be productive and sustainable so that we can produce generations of food going forward. And of course, working with all members of the community that are involved in the agri-food process, engaging women and men with the tools that they are able to do. You can see that going forward, and even now that ICRISAT works in enabling women to work with knowledge systems around production of food, around food processing activities, and also the deployment of technologies, whether drone deployment that we work with the government of India or others, where women are very involved. Just to finish off towards the idea of smart food, of course, when we start to work with highly nutritive cereals like sorghum and the millets, and of course the grain legumes that we're involved with chickpea and pigeon pea and groundnut, this creates all kinds of opportunities not only for unprocessed, but also processing these foods into what some are calling smart foods, to have an initiative where these kind of products are made available to a wide array of individuals who want to invest in these products because of the healthful outcomes that they are associated with. And of course, also thinking about, in the case of, just going to try again to get the slide to load. Perhaps not. So just talking about, we'll get there eventually. Let me just finish off by saying, of course, working with digital tools, it was very impressive to see the launch of the aquaculture fishing application that was launched earlier this morning. We are also very involved with communities, whether it's around using these tools for meteorological activity, of smart systems for integrated pest management, to put these tools into the hands of farmers as well. And I will end off with the work that we do in the Dryland Academy. We're getting involved with a wide array of CG system members, including ACARTA and others, but looking at the way that we can actually develop knowledge systems of ensuring that we have the very basic science knowledge that we are working on, to make that into modules, to make that into tools, to make that into professional development opportunities, to increase the ways that we can actually ensure that they will have increased productivity in the dryland areas of the globe, but also enhanced both agri-food and other opportunities for economic and sustainable development. So with that, I will thank you, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to chat. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving us a lot of ideas and packing them into the exact time limit. I'm very happy to invite Dr. Boiba Bong again to say a few words on the subject of this session. And I think we have already heard his CV read out, I mean parts of his CV, but I think for us, very important in India, you're an alumnus of IARI, and there are, I think, many others over here in the audience. So I think that we welcome you back to say a few words. About 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Madam Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to take this opportunity to talk about the new direction of Vietnamese agriculture from now towards 2030 in the vision towards 2045. Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay. Firstly, the success of Vietnam agriculture. One, increase production and productivity. Number two, ensuring national food security. And now Vietnam became a large agricultural exporter of the world. Number three, rice. Number one, cashew nut. Number one, black pepper, and so on. And the agriculture is a supporting pillar of the national economy. It's okay. However, there are some limitations. One, low economic efficiency. Number two, low farmers' income. And number three, very important, and we understood that not only Vietnam but other countries also, this is the degrading environment due to agriculture and causing high greenhouse gas emissions. So based on the success and the limitations, Vietnam government now have a new direction. Have launched a new direction for the Vietnamese agriculture to the future. Firstly, we consider three pillars: agriculture, rural areas, and farmers are the three unseparated elements playing very important role in the construction and defense of the country. So we have a new direction for these three pillars. Number one, ecological agriculture. Number two, modern rural areas. And number three, smart farmers. So it is very interesting that three directions exactly the same as the vision of Professor M.S. Swaminathan. So firstly, he talked about the evergreen revolution. In Vietnam, we call it ecological agriculture. And here, his vision is to make the countryside, the commune, rural commune happy, the farmer happy. In Vietnam, we express as a model rural areas and smart farmers. So the vision very, translate into Vietnamese strategy now in agriculture. So for ecological agriculture, developing effective, sustainable, and ecology-oriented agriculture, emphasizing the importance of protecting ecological environment, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and adapting to climate change. Applying advanced science and technology to improve its quality and enhance its added value. And achieving top exporters of the world for some agricultural commodities. For the direction of modern rural areas, we focus on modern rural areas imbued with rich cultural identity, a good living environment, and socio-economic and service infrastructure close to that of urban area standards. Preservation and promotion of traditional cultural values, and recognizing the potential for local level advantages in rural areas. And what three pillars is smart farmers, enhancing the role, position, and capacity of farmers and rural residents as the master of their own destiny and strengthen the role of farmers as a key stakeholders. And farmers should become affluent with a civilized lifestyle, while environment should be protected. We look for happy farmers, the wish, the dream of Professor Swaminathan. And here are one example of ecological agriculture. Now Vietnam government would like to practice ecological agriculture in large scale on 1 million hectares. And we launched already the project Sustainable Development of 1 million hectares. In Vietnam, we have 3.8 million hectares. Here we focus 1 million hectares. It means that 1/3 of the total rice area in Vietnam, rice area, we have 3.8 million hectares. And this project, we focus 1 million hectares, very big scale, with high quality and low emission associated with green growth in the Mekong Delta until 2030. And this project was launched in this year. And from now to the end of 2025, we will complete about 200,000 hectares. So this is a very good example of how we practice ecological agriculture in large scale. So we hope that India will help Vietnam in this effort also. So thank you very much for your attention. My speech.
Thank you. I think it's time now for India also to learn lessons from Vietnam on this green growth strategy. The last speaker we have today is Dr. Jauhar Ali, who leads the Hybrid Rice Consortium at IRRI and is a very well-regarded scientist. I cannot, not being a scientist myself, I cannot read out his CV. But I want to just mention one thing here. Jauhar is known to all of us. And the photograph that you showed of a scientist from India, the head of the Rice Directorate, who went to Vietnam, is Dr. E.A. Siddiqui, whose son is Jauhar Ali, is with us. So we have a generational change here of people who are committed to the same cause. So welcome, Jauhar.
At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for having me invited for this such a wonderful occasion. I think what Madhura already mentioned is a generational thing now. My father and myself, we are so indebted to the Swaminathans, and we are really appreciative of being here and participate in this. And I take this opportunity to, based on the time limit, I will straight get into the topic, the securing the food through wide-scale adoption of climate-resilient rice varieties. And if we need to understand how do we secure the food, we have to understand food insecurity in the first place. By 2050, you will see many of the world regions in the map showing to the left becoming very dark red. And this is a true picture that is already going to unfold. Now, what are we going to do in this regard is the question. And in just this year alone, 300 million people have already suffered the global food crisis. And 70% of them are mostly coming from the war-ravaged areas of Ukraine and Palestine. So this makes the situation more tense. When we look at the solutions on the other side, how do we sustain the food security under climate change? This is exactly what Professor Swaminathan has been always advocating, that any country needs to have these 4 elements very clearly. One is the climate-resilient rice varieties and hybrids for any crop, and then you should have the crop management technologies that should augment this, the crop varieties for that. And then you should have the biofortification of these varieties, especially for the hidden hunger elements like iron and zinc. And at the same time, we have to have the policymakers in the loop in order to make sure all the policies are in place to make the food available, accessible, and stably sustained. In this regard, we had launched the Green Super Rice project in 2009 to 19 with the help of Chinese Academy of Agriculture Sciences. And this resulted in the concept of the Green Super Rice, which basically, again, dwells on the high yields with lesser chemical inputs and fertilizers, making it what we call as the climate resilient materials. Not only, and then we have these materials. When we generated thousands of them. Now these materials are getting into the hybrid program to create the climate resilient materials. And then we have the Iris 1 rice breeding that is utilizing these materials as well. And we are creating the next generation of genomic selection products that emerge from there. And eventually, with the heterotic pool-driven hybrid breeding, we are able to bring the next generation of hybrids that are there. Now, if you see the number of varieties that we released in last 10, 11, maybe 12 years from now, we have almost released 73 varieties globally. And almost 33 million hectares, we have almost cumulative areas expanded of these varieties. And many of this in India, PR 126 in Punjab is a very glaring example, where 50% of the area is already covered in Punjab, Haryana, and in India. I will not take into that, but I would like to show you these slides where we have already biofortified rice varieties with iron and zinc combined in them. This is the first instance where we have combined iron and zinc through the GSR breeding strategy. And not only that, we also put the low glycemic index in the multiple stress tolerant varieties. And these are already available in the best high yielding backgrounds. Now going to the climate resilient and nutritious hybrids, we have already developed the fall smut resistant materials. We have also the materials on the both sides. The parents are climate resilient. At the same time, we have now trying to develop the second generation of climate resilient hybrids where both parents would be resilient traits would be captured. Recently, we released the salt tolerant hybrid, India's first or world's first salt tolerant hybrid, DRRH5, with the help of Indian Institute of Rice Research in Hyderabad. And this gives 42% over yield over CSR10. And this is one of the important achievements that came recently. I would also like to touch the low carbon footprint, because this is a very important topic. When we have to sustain the rice production in the coming decades, we have to look at the low carbon footprint rice hybrids or even inbreds for that matter, where we are trying to reduce the duration to less than 110 days and increase the yield beyond 10 tons. If that is done, then we can really identify also the hybrids. Certain hybrids are doing very well under low methane emitting varieties. Also, we see that in wet direct seeded conditions, some of these hybrids are requiring lesser inputs. At the same time, their duration is reduced. At the same time, they are giving higher yield than the transplanted conditions. To accelerate this, we are also using the AI hybridized tool. We have been talking on the artificial intelligence. Now we also have identified this tool for identifying the best hybrid combinations. And this way, we have now the low carbon emission technologies like the low methane emitting hybrids, dry direct seeded hybrids, wet DSR hybrids, and the AI tool can augment this very comfortably to achieve this. Now, getting to the next two-line hybridized technology, which is another technology that we are launching at IRI. And this is picking up very good, because the reason is we have identified a so low critical sterility point at 24 degrees centigrade, the plant becomes completely sterile. It's genic controlled. And any choice of the parent, pollen parent, can be any parent for that across the landscape of rice. So therefore, the heterosis increases tremendously. We are seeing the advantage of more than 40% heterosis in the coming materials that I will show you some. Some of these materials, you can see the hybrids performance is good. we can fix these with the GIS maps exactly with 20 years data, which places to be grown and how it can be secured. We also identified the super stigma, which is the longest stigma ever recorded in the rice plant. And this super stigma TGMS line can be a game changer, where the seed production can go beyond 3.5 tons per hectare. And you can see one of the seed production plots there. Also, the two-line hybrids have one very interesting thing, is that the head rice recovery is beyond 60%, and the mill recovery is beyond 70%. And we have also the two-line study group. And then the promising two-line hybrids we identified at Erie is almost, many of these, the bracketed one, if you see them, are beyond the 10 tons thing, which is much superior than the existing checks of Bigante Plus in the Philippines, and the RC222, which is 40 to 43% almost above that. And another slide to depict the advantage of the hybrids, the recent, which we wanted to bring it just to showcase that it is easy to cross 35% comfortably against the best inbred checks. And this is something, in the coming days, you will see this level of heterosis going up, because we never tested many of the pollens from different heterotic pools. So this concept of the hybrids can be amazing, because the yield heterosis can go further. And now this technology, when it is combined with the help of apomixes or the synthetic apomix, then the whole story changes. So the apomixes is that the hybrids can be fixed into synthetic apomix. You don't need to even produce the seed. But this technology is at the offering now. And you know the Sundaresan's lab at UC Davis and CIRAD, we are working with them. At the same time, Erie is working with the CAS, with Jiang Li's group, where the apomixes is already, the teams are already laid out. In next 4 or 5 years, we should see this synthetic apomix using the two-line technology. Hybrids that we developed can be enveloped into this. And this is my last slide. And we can have climate resilient rice hybrids to be identified different vulnerable market segments. We can talk about heat, cold, elevated levels of carbon dioxide, ozone, nutrient use efficiency, and other traits. Designing new CMS and TGMS lines, heterotic market preferred two-line, three-line hybrids is possible. Genomic prediction of heterosis with AI tools makes it very precise. At the same time, the two-line hybridized technology is going to take center stage, and genome editing tools will become a routine, and the climate resilient apomictic hybrids would make Asia and Africa secure in the coming days. And I would like to end my talk with a visionary person like Swaminathan, Professor Swaminathan. The whole world owes to him for the vision he had to make this world with collectively achieving the food and nutritional security for all. With this, I'd like to thank the organizers once again, and also the today is the birthday of Professor Swaminathan. I wish the family members here my birthday wishes, and from Erie, we'd like to thank the organizers once again, because he was also our DG 2 terms at Erie. Thank you very much.
Thanks, thank you. And this session, we have a few minutes for little discussion and comments, and then we'll end in time for our lunch at 1:30. I would just like to say that this has been a fascinating session, because I think almost everybody has focused on what you started off with, Shengan, which is climate resilience on one hand and nutrition on the other hand. So, bringing these two together, and in different ways at the Erie work, in ICRISAT, in Vietnam. The other thing I think this session has also covered different dimensions to bring about change. This science and technology is very important, but we have to look at institutional change, land rights for women. How does this actually reach the, we keep talking about last mile connectivity and disruption. These are very popular words today, but what does it really mean? And before opening the floor for very quick comments, questions, I would just like to add here that MSSRF actually developed salt-tolerant rice variety many years ago. That was a GM product. And unfortunately, because of the environment for GMO in India, it could never really leave lab or field conditions. So I think I want to also emphasize here what Dr. Bruce Albert said, that as scientists, we have a very important role to speak to society. Not just to ourselves, not in conferences where we're all agreeing, but to society, and to make sure that we're open to new scientific innovations as they come, if they meet our goals, which is having climate resilient agriculture and nutritious agriculture. So anybody from the floor want to make a quick comment? Yes, Rama, Dr. Rama Narayanan, yes.
My question is to the last speaker. You said about this apomictic rice, the hybrid varieties of rice, and without even seed that can be produced. How much should it be under the control of the farmers? If you imagine a small marginal farmer, in the rural area, not very much literate and not having much power, how much control would they have over this?
Answer it. Give a quick answer.
This is a very fundamental question, because the synthetic apomix is meant for the poor farmers, because there is no seed production here. Anybody can use it, and forever, as long he finds benefit from the yields. Now, if the governments, different governments invest into this technology, the hybrid would be in the hands of the government. And if the private sector does, they will have in their hands. So this is not a big technology, but it can be a feasible one.
Thank you. Dr. Jayaraman and then Dr. Mahendra Dev. Yeah.
I think we've heard a lot of very encouraging and positive outlook for the future, so which is, I think, important. But what I missed is, what are the barriers, what are the challenges? Because the kind of good practices or positive lessons that you have described, they occur in parts of the world, but in many parts of the world, they do not occur. So what are realistically the barriers and challenges we need to address?
We'll take the next question and then I'll ask the panelists too.
Yeah, I have one question for Stanford and one for Schengen. Stanford, regarding the millets, government is also promoting the millets. But as Dr. M.S. Swaminathan mentioned, it's the technology and public policy together that give the green revolution. So in the case of millets, they're talking, but the public policy and also the rate of return is important, economics of, so how do you do that? Because still people are growing rice and wheat, and that's one. Second, on Schengen, regarding the malnutrition, one of the issues is cost of healthy diets. How 50% of the people can't afford the healthy diets. And also the malnutrition and also obesity, you mentioned 50% of the adults in China obesity. So how do you, with the private sector, industry, how do you, do this processed foods, those kind of issues? Thank you.
Okay, so I'll give a quick chance. You can use these mics, yes.
Thank you very much for the question. Particularly with millets, as you know, 2023 was the International Year of Millets, and there was so much activity going on across the globe. If I think about an Indian example, where millet can play an important role in school meal programs and those sorts of things, where subsistence farmers can produce this product. It's a very highly nutritious product. So I think in your reference to policy, then it comes to how that kind of policy can be enacted to use such a great product like millet. I was really pleased to see the foundation's approach to this as well, around using millet that has all of these extraordinary nutritional characteristics, but maybe hasn't always had the kind of placement that it really should. Thank you for the question.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the question about the barriers, yes, indeed. How we're going to strengthen these interfaces between science, innovations, policy, and society. And NITIA is also part of the working group. So we're really struggling with that. I had a presentation in New Delhi on that. I think lack of capacity, lack of think tanks. The think tanks can really use real data, use the okay, here we go. So I think for scientists, we should not be afraid of this sort of internet attacks on us. In China, we had a very bad example. Some researchers, some scientists, including some of our friends, were very, very sort of up in the front to let the audience know the impact of certain genetic modified or genetic edited technologies. But then all these sort of internet citizens begin attacks the scientists. But in that, the government and laws should really also protect the scientists. Otherwise, they would continue to attack. So that's one. It's not just us, the government. Government should allow us to speak out. So that's critical. Now, on diets, I think the healthy diets, even sustainable diets, do not necessarily mean very expensive. We don't want to use the Eat Lancet. I think I was in the first part of the Eat Lancet. It's very expensive. But if you look at the local foods, millet, sorghum, let's say fish, eggs, so you just have them sort of a good proportion of proteins, good proportion of starch, good proportion of all kinds of fruits, vegetables. I think that like a $2 to $3 FAO number is overstated. I mean, here even Tamanado, you can easily get a healthy, let's say, diets per person with maybe $1 per day. I'm very sure you can do that. I mean, that's my experience in China. So now, overweight, obesity, yes, absolutely, it's an issue we've got to address, this health cost. And again, cutting down the starch, cutting down the red meat, so not only good for our health, but also good for our environment. Again, that interface between knowledge, innovation to the society will be so critical.
I may just add that for some of you that, the minister from Karnataka, Krishna Bairagowda, today spoke about in the government of Karnataka did start procurement of millets and distribution in the public distribution system. Of course, one of the constraints is that that's more expensive than procuring rice and wheat because millets have lower productivity. So it's a chain, but I think we have to amplify or invest more money in these kind of public policy initiatives. Last word from you and Dr. Boiba Bong, and then we may close up.
Yeah, actually, I would dwell on to this particular topic that every government, regardless of which state or which country, they have to think that they have to invest into research. And every product they invest, there is a return on that investment. And agriculture is a very slow magic. It doesn't overnight, it ripens and it drops the next day fruit. It takes time. And that has to be borne by that time. We have to bear with it. And the government has to invest into this. You can't make miracles overnight. But then this investment is important because you are, again, if you're not going to do that, you are going to either put more money on the importing those materials back into your country, or you're going to spend it to create, give more subsidies to the farmers to produce more of that kind. So in either case, you are going to spend more money, but if you invest into the research, that money would be really meaningful. This is very important message for all the governments, regardless in any part of the world. Yeah. You want to say something? You are the minister. Yeah.
What I have to answer? My question.
In rolling out this program,
Yeah, okay.
rice program. What is the challenge?
Yeah, okay. I think to produce low carbon rice, now technology available, identified by ERI and other institutes. But how to apply in large scale is a problem. It needs the policy of the government, particularly the infrastructure improvement. For example, very simple technique, we should withdraw of water from the field sometime during the growth season. But if we do not have facilities, drainage facilities, how farmers can withdraw from out of the field? So it needs the policy of the government, the investment of the government, and the attention system to help farmers to adopt the technology.
I'll now request a co-chair, Mr. Prem Chandra Chaudhary, IAS, to say a few words to wrap up. You will go there? Take.
Thank you so much. At the outset, I express my gratitude to the MS Swaminathan Foundation for inviting me here. Our Honorable Deputy Chief Minister, sir, in the inaugural session has shared a lot of decisions and progress of our state. I am Director Agriculture, Government of Odisha. So he has already spoken about some of the initiatives. And I just, this session belongs to safeguarding production systems for eliminating hunger. So I would just say, explain how MSSRF has been working with our state for developing models regarding farming system and nutrition, regarding integrated farming systems, and regarding millets also. So like the chairperson of this session, Madam, was saying regarding millets. So in our state also, Sri Anna Abhiyan, our state procures the millets in the MSP, and then also it is being distributed in the PDS on free of cost. So basically it's a one side to provide income to the tribal and dry land farmers, and same time to ensure better nutrition, because in many of the cases, if you procure the any production, any cereal through MSP, then it is being distributed somewhere else. So both the things is being taken care in the Sri Anna Abhiyan in our state, and I am happy to express that MSSRF is also one of the leading partner in the Sri Anna Abhiyan. Secondly, I would say that a lot of things has been told regarding these farming systems and how to we ensure the nutrition, hunger in the future. So if we'll see as an administrator, if I'll explain my experience, because I don't have a lot of education background in the agriculture sector. But I have been working in the agriculture sector in last 2 years. Many of the things are interdependent, starting from input, soil, air, water, credit, then markets, then agronomic practices. So to create a fine balance among all is actually a challenge. And one of the important barriers I would perceive in this sector is how to communicate the things, because if we'll see, research are currently also at a very high stage, but in the ground level, percolation of those findings are not as we desire. So how to better communicate? We have been watching a lot of ads on different things. Suppose in India, we in the name of nutrition, we used to be eating a lot of things, and through TV channels, through private ecosystem players, that things have been reaching to us, but not about the, one of the speaker was saying, within very low expenses, we can afford a good nutrition diet. So this kind of communications, what are the research, how would farmer get benefit out of this production systems, because at the end of the day, for the farmer, what is the sustainable thing, which is actually giving him profit? Otherwise, we would be saying, this, you do this, and we will provide support under some schemes for 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and as soon as we withdraw that scheme, we would have seen in the past that most of the things have been, once we withdraw the scheme, that practice is being stopped by the farmer. So we have to just make sure that these things will be making and giving profit, and the interdependency of the things has to be reflected in the policies. So this is two things I would be saying on this, and I am very again thankful to the Research Foundation for having inviting me here for the conference, and I am also very thankful to my Deputy Chief Minister sir, because he only insisted that you should come along with me. It will be very good experience for both of us. So thank you very much. Dhanyavad, namaskar, Jai Hind.
Thank you, Shri Chaudhary. And sorry, Orissa has been very ahead in the millet mission also. Okay, so just a big thank you again to all our speakers, and I'm sure you can chat with them over the day and over lunch. And just as a token of our appreciation, Prabhavati.
Yes, thank you, Madam, for chairing this session. I thank Dr. Madhura as well as the co-chair for chairing the session. And also I request you to hand over a millet basket as a token of appreciation.
I think... What about, actually, we shouldn't be, you should be bringing us
The source of origin.
Yeah.
With the back this time.
Yeah, with the bag, yes. Thank you.
I request Dr. Angalakshmi to honor our chair. Thank you again. Yes, we are well in time, and there's a small announcement. Lunch will be served in the pantry as well as in the open space. I request the delegates to go to the pantry, and MSSRF staff and community members to join for lunch in the open area, and request you to reassemble here at 2:30. The next session will start at 2:30. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Really, by definition, it's just anywhere where there's the nutrient density is starting to increase. Iron or biologically. Exactly. You know, branding is a remarkable thing.